What does $5,500 worth of sports card investments look like? Well, in this sports card super haul, you are about to find out. I know it's been a while since I put out a Mail Week video, but that does not mean I haven't been investing in what I believe are underpriced cards. And in this video, I'll show you 5 of the cards I've been scooping up in the last couple of months and the reasoning behind it, so hopefully you'll be a bit more savvy of an investor. Plus, at the end, I'll let you know how you can get access to the other cards I have been picking up before it hits YouTube. So with that being said, welcome back. Now let's get to work. All right, first things first, I have been very hesitant to put out videos on cards I've been buying because as this community grows, I've got to acknowledge the fact that my influence can actually start to affect card prices one way or the other, and that is not my intention. My goal is to share my thoughts and experiences in hopes that it brings you some form of value, whatever that may be. With that being said, I want to give you this disclaimer. These were investments that made sense to me at a specific time and at that specific price I paid based on my thought process and risk tolerance. There it is. Let's start with number 5, and these are actually 2 cards. It is the 2014 Prism Cristiano Ronaldo and 2014 Prism Lionel Messi in PSA 9. And I never thought I'd touch a soccer card in my life. I don't watch the sport. I don't care about following it. I'm just not a fan. I think the highlights are the coolest part when they have like one of those sick corner kicks that turns out to be a goal. The flopping is, I think, is embarrassing, but it's also funny. I get some really good laughs out of watching soccer flops. Now, it doesn't matter what I think about soccer. Messi and Ronaldo have a combined 400 million Instagram followers and are GOATs of their sport, and their actual rookie cards go for a fortune. So those are probably great investments, but this has proven to be the most liquidatable, whatever, card. And my play on these is to not have the best end-all card for collectors. It's to have the card that flippers will turn to when the next soccer wave happens. So like last summer, these cards spiked to ridiculous levels, and I don't expect that to ever happen again. But if you look at their sales history, what really caught my eye is that the prices of these cards were lower in November and December than where they were before that crazy spike. So both of these cards were around $200 to $300 in July, and yet were selling for $100 to $120 late last year. They weren't dipping any lower. So every time I would follow one of these auctions, it would seem to end around that price. So it made me think that the new floor of the card was in that range. And that means if I needed to liquidate, I could probably break even at worst case scenario. And to me, a low risk investment with a good chance of a 50 to 100% return is just great. I ended up buying 17 of these cards so I could trickle them over time like I usually do. And I want to give a special shout out to Brandon Chung, who hooked me up with 3 of these cards for about $110 a piece and threw in a couple bonuses in my package. So Brandon, appreciate you. I also bought a couple of these cards from Burbank Sports Cards up in Burbank, about 10 miles north of me. So shout out to them as well. Number 4 are a few Mike Trout cards I picked up, and the reason why is because every week when I send out my newsletter, just like soccer, I'm looking at the cards that have dropped the most and are starting to plateau. For several weeks, I was seeing baseball and soccer cards plummet in price while basketball and football was on fire. So I figured I could just pick up a few baseball and soccer cards if I did some research. And for guys like Mike Trout, I already know he's one of the best baseball players out there, and he's like a blue chip investment. So if I could pick up his cards when the whole sport is on sale, I might as well do it. I ended up picking these cards up for $120 each, including shipping. And if I take a look at their charts, they're already selling for about $190 with plenty of time until opening day. So again, if I could sell for 1.5 to 2x margin without any games being played and without a chance of injury, that is a win for me. Number 3 is another baseball investment, but I went a lot deeper in my research with this pick. So after seeing how much baseball was dropping in November, I knew it was time to start looking. So I used a very similar approach to what I did with hockey last year. So here's my process. First, I started with the teams that had the best odds of winning the World Series according to all the Vegas betting sites. And from there, I would look up the top hitters of those teams. With baseball cards, I've learned that the top home run hitters typically equate to higher sales and numbers, so I didn't want to consider defensive starters or pitchers. Now, after I narrowed that down, I wanted to get a feel for who was most popular. So I looked up their jersey sales because the more popular a player is, the more security I feel with the investment. Same as Messi and Ronaldo. Lastly, I had to see who was due for a bounce back year because the bigger the disappointment of the prior year, the more the prices should have deflated. And after doing all that, the player I decided to go in on was Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. He had very high jersey sales. He's likable. He hits a ton of home runs. He plays for the Yankees, which is a top franchise in all of sports, in the media center of the world, perhaps, New York City. And Vegas actually had the Yankees as one of the top teams to win it all in 2021. To top that all off, when I looked up the biggest disappointments of 2020, a lot of articles I read had the New York Yankees atop their list. So I picked up 8 of his rookie cards, focusing primarily on his Topps Chrome PSA 10 rookie card. I paid about $80 on average for each of those, and then $130 to $150 for his Topps Chrome Refractor in PSA 10. And just like the Mike Trout cards, they've started to go up in value, and I expect this to continue as baseball season gets closer and once attention from the NFL starts to shift to Major League Baseball. Number 2 are a few random cards that I really like for myself, but could definitely see them spiking for a short period, and those are these early 90s Olympic cards. And for one, I've mentioned this in the past, I really enjoy Olympic related cards because it's the one time where all the greatest players from all the different teams actually represent my team instead of playing against them. And I think others out there feel the same way, at least some others. Secondly, what's interesting is that this upcoming Olympics will be the 19-year anniversary of the 1992 Dream Team. And since there won't be an Olympics next year, unless it gets delayed again, this will be the closest thing to a 20-year anniversary. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do something special along those lines. Third of all, I personally love these cards from a nostalgic lens. And for $30 to $85, I'm okay if they don't go up in value. Dream Team was really the first big memory I have watching basketball as a kid. I was about 6 years old at the time, so to see this collection of the best of the world go out for Team USA and just crush the competition, I think really kick-started my interest in NBA. And that takes me to my number 1 investment, which I bought several of in different grades and have invested over $2,500 into, which for me, remember, that's a lot. And that is the 2012 Prism Klay Thompson rookie card. And I'm really optimistic about these cards for a few reasons. Klay's second consecutive season-ending injury really stripped all hype from him and his cards. These cards in PSA 10 peaked at over $1,500 back in August, but once his injury was announced, they plummeted all the way down to roughly $550. I ended up picking up a couple of them for $590 each, and I believe that's a steal because the pop report is quite low. And secondly, Klay will eventually be back on a team with Steph Curry, and the hype and expectations will be really high again, perhaps next year. But thirdly, Klay is reported to be on Space Jam 2, and I don't know how big his role would be, but if he's going to be in a movie with LeBron James and these other stars, I see it as a potential upside as well. Now, if you are subscribed to my weekly newsletter, you'll see what players in sports are dropping and plateauing every week based on actual sales data, so you can spot opportunities in advance. I also notified my newsletter subscribers of this list ahead of time and will do so with my other investments. So if you'd like to sign up, just visit thecomebackcardinvestor.com and you can do that on the homepage in about 30 seconds. Let me know what you think of my investments in the comments section below, and I will see you in that next video. I mean, that was long, so I think that's good.